Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm joined by Matt Richardson, Matt Hungry Again on TikTok, to recap all things D23, the ultimate Disney fan event. We will also have a little interview with Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi, which was recorded live at the D23 convention itself. So if you're a fan of this podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. And also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, because we have a big episode, massive extravaganza episode this week, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, everybody, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. And it's just been an excellent last couple of weeks here for both the podcast, the show, the fun that I've been having at D23 and just being in the Anaheim area, going to Disneyland and all that stuff. It was a total blast. So first off, thank you to everybody for following along on this adventure, this crazy thing that we've been doing the last couple of weeks here. And thank you to everybody for listening to our pre-recorded episodes as well. They were a lot of fun to put together, and I tackled some topics that I've been wanting to get to for quite some time here. But obviously, when you're off on the road and doing stuff, you don't really have the time necessarily to put stuff together. So that's why we do those in advance. And I hope you enjoyed listening to those. But also, for everybody, again, like I said, I was following along via our social media channels, particularly on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. We definitely did our best to provide a wonderful at-home experience for the D23 convention that we possibly could. And hopefully this experience or what we saw was enough to entice you to attend the show in its next generation, which should be, I imagine, in 2026. They'll probably do a Destination D23 mini kind of D23 convention here in Walt Disney World next year. But it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of great stuff to do, and we'll talk about that with Matt and Dan in the course of this episode here. So just all in all, great stuff. Just wanted to share some highlights from that experience as well, because Lucasfilm did put on a full extravaganza basically of content and programming for everybody here. So they literally brought a full volume set to the convention center hall. It is the volume that they're currently using to film The Mandalorian and Grogu. And they took it down for a weekend and brought it over to the Anaheim Convention Center and put it back up. And that's where they had all of their panels that they had throughout the weekend. And I attended essentially every Lucasfilm offering that they had. And it started off with them explaining with Rob Ridow, um, explaining the volume, how it works. I don't pretend to be an expert in the volume, but I do think I have a little bit more of a sense now, because seeing is believing. This thing is truly a monster of an endeavor. I don't even really have the words to fully describe how awesome, incredible it is. My mind is just going off in different directions on how we can utilize this for different technologies aside from just film and television and just storytelling aspects of it. But the immersive nature of it is truly impeccable. I got to be put into a Star Wars itself. They had like a little photo opportunity that you could do, and I gladly jumped at that opportunity as well. They had the showrunners for the new Star Wars Lego Rebuild the Galaxy that I was able to attend that panel for. And somehow I won a raffle giveaway, and I then had to not that I'm complaining at all, but I received a Dark Falcon, which you'll see in the show itself in Lego form, which includes some of the midi figs such as like Jedi Darth Vader and Darth Jar Jar, Darth Ray, all those wonderful characters that you'll see within the show were there. They debuted the new trailer, the full cast announcements, including, of course, Billy D. Williams, Kelly Marie Tran, Shelby Young was in the audience. And she was announced as one of the cast members, Bobby Moynihan. Just a really wonderful experience on that front as well. Legacy Effects was there. They had they showcased how they do the kind of the inner workings of the various creatures in recent shows that we've seen. So um, the Lothcat was featured one day. Queel was also on highlight. He also kind of started smoking a bit. You can see the video on our TikTok and Instagram. It's kind of funny. As well as Hu Yang got a full panel display on that one. Nubs meet and greets as well were there, and of course everything is solved when you have a Nubs hug. Am I right? But also, we were treated to a wonderful thing, which was the panel with Manny Jacinto, and I that was my, like, "I need to do this. This is the big thing." Um, oh, sorry, also Vanessa Marshall and Athena Portillo talking about, um, Lucasfilm Animation, just sharing their highlights of the last several animated shows that Lucasfilm has done. No announcements are there, but Vanessa Marshall did say she's very excited for the future. Talked to Athena Portillo as well. So definitely looking forward to the future of Lucasfilm Animation. So nothing on that front, unfortunately. But also, like I was kind of alluding to before, Manny Jacinto from the Acolyte, Chimera, the Stranger, whatever you want to call him, did a full panel look back on the Acolyte. He talked about his training, his influences, working with Amandla Stenberg, and it's just truly a delight. Probably the best panel that I think I could have attended to that day. We got to do a full meet and greet with Manny afterwards. I got a signed poster with him. I got to chat with him for a second. I just told him how wonderful he is, how his approach is so incredible, and that I hope to see more. And unfortunately, we'll get to that in a little bit here. But he was also at the time very excited to do more in the future as well. But I digress. We'll get to that later. So walking the show floor was a truly magnificent experience as well. Saw the different things from the Marvel exhibits, the Avatar experience. Saw John Favreau literally 2 feet away from me. Doug Chang at Lucasfilm. Rob Bredow, of course, Athena Portillo. Got to meet wonderful Matt Martin from the Lucasfilm team. Kirsten Baver as well from the Lucasfilm team. Uh, I also got to do a meet and greet with Vanessa Marshall as well. So all these wonderful things happened, and it's just a wonderful convention. I had a true blast. There's so many things to talk about, of course, which we'll get into in the Cloud City Gossip section, which is that section right now. We'll get to that in just a minute here because I did compile all the Lucasfilm news that's taken place since I stopped doing basically live episodes for the last month here. So we've got a lot of news to cover in this section, plus our conversation with Dan that was recorded live at the convention, and of course our conversation with Matt that'll happen a little later on, which is our full recap of the D23, which will go in a bit more detail about our specific experiences and all that stuff, which I'm personally very excited to hear about because I know that Matt had a full different array of experiences than I did at the convention, which just shows how wide the different offerings and varieties are. And if you're a fan of anything under the Disney umbrella, you can truly be a specialist or an expert in one of those specific areas and tailor your experiences to that that IP or that interest level, all that stuff. So all that's on full display here as well in this episode. So truly a big extravaganza for everybody. But just wanted to say first and foremost, thank you to everybody for following along, enjoying the live tweeting that I was doing of those different panels, and watching those videos and Instagrams and TikToks and all that stuff. So thanks to everybody again for that. And let's get into the Cloud City Gossip section. I've kind of hinted at this a bit here already, but the sad news unveiled this week is that unfortunately the Acolyte was not renewed for a second season. So that's really heartbreaking for me personally. I loved that show. I loved everything that it stood for. And the opportunities that it gave to so many creators and actors and actresses and people behind the scenes in order to create a wonderful story, in my opinion. um, I truly hope that maybe there's something in the works for the future that can showcase the story in different ways, shape, or forms. I'm all for it. I would love to see it. And it's just kind of hard hearing how excited that Manny and team were doing in preparation for the season itself that we got to see, and how excited they were for a potential season in the future. So who knows? Always in motion the future is, if something comes again, or an opportunity where you can see these showcase characters in a different light. But yeah, just a little sad and upsetting to hear all that after this wonderful weekend, where that was kind of the marquee highlight for me, was hearing that conversation with Manny, seeing the concept art already for the Stranger and the Mask, that it went through the various iterations, his training processes, how he was so inspired by Hayden Christensen and Ray Park in order to become the Chimere, but also influencing his Filipino background in martial arts into the character as well, which I thought was just fascinating and so cool to hear his approach in order to create these characters that have now become iconic. I mean, there were people uh, cosplaying as the Stranger at the convention, and it was just so cool to see that. Just yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But like I mentioned, not only did D23 happen, but San Diego Comic Con also happened recently, and there was a lot of Star Wars news and announcements there as well. We got new books in the Acolyte realm, so it's not entirely over yet. You're gonna get a little bit more flavor for the Acolyte in the next couple of years here for sure. We got the Acolyte Wayseeker announced by Justina Ireland, which will feature Vanessa Rowe and Master Indara, which is set 20 years before the events of the show. Tessa Gratton is also writing a book about Jecki and Yord. We've got further details about that in the future. Kelnaka will appear in the Cavan Scott The High Republic comic series with Marvel. He will also do a one-shot Kelnaka comic. It's on the way as well. Volume 2 of The Art of the High Republic is on the way from Kristen Baver. We also have announced the Art of the Acolyte, which will feature some of the designs from the panel that I saw with Chimere and the various iterations of the mask itself. So that art is coming on the way. Art book is coming on the way from Kristen Baver. The Art of Star Wars Outlaws was announced. Pablo Hidalgo is working on an Acolyte visual guide. Tons of different comics, and I know they got the new Insurgency Jakku uh mini series coming out in October, and they shared more details about that. New encyclopedias coming out. All this stuff is on the way, and so there's a lot of new supplemental reading material for both novels, YA stuff, the kind of the nonfiction line, as they would like to call it there at Lucasfilm, is on the way, and I'm very excited about that. And this maybe some way, shape, or form, these can also offer alternative metrics that maybe they can see that there is a fervor and interest for these characters and stories moving forward. That is my best hope and prayer on that one. At D23, we were treated to the first trailer for Skeleton Crew at the entertainment panel. So fans got to see that at the Honda Center. But also for the fans at home like us, we got to actually see the trailer on all social channels and also on YouTube as well. So that is available. I personally love the trailer. We'll talk about that with Dan in our little interview, because he actually got to go into the entertainment showcase to see that as it happened live, or at least when it was announced and all that stuff. So that was fun. Meanwhile, I was at a Blaze Pizza eating pizza while I was watching, keeping up to date with Twitter and all this stuff, so that I could see when new trailers were getting announced and what new offerings are coming from the Disney entertainment studio in the future. But I thought the trailer looked great. We got to see a couple of the first the pirates, the villains, or maybe the villains of the show on full display, like the Wolfman. Like, come on, sign me up for that guy in Star Wars. And the droids, SMEE or 33 SME, I think is how they're probably gonna describe them. Also was discussed a little bit in the legacy effects sections of the show, or not the show, but at the Lucasfilm Pavilion during the convention as well. That was a really, really neat treat as well. So Skeleton Crew, yeah, go check out that trailer. We at that same Lucasfilm showcase for the entertainment portion, they actually showed a sneak peek at Andor season 2, which revealed Orson Krennic and K2SO being in the series. So that's fun. Well, that wasn't officially released to the public yet, so we'll wait for the right time when that happens. And we also got a first look at the Mandalorian and Grogu, which also showcased like Zeb and walkers and snow troopers. So a lot of fun things coming in the future for the film and television industry for Star Wars, but nothing else on that front, and nothing else in the Lucasfilm realm at the entertainment showcase. But also, like I told you, we got a little bit of a sneak peek at the Rebuild the Galaxy series that's coming on September 13th on Disney Plus. We got a full unveiled cast again, a wonderful array of new Lego inspired posters, some Lego inspired projects for that thing as well, and a new trailer too, which also really rocks and showcases what the idea and the story of the show overall is. Basically, the cornerstone of the galaxy has been removed, and it's caused everything to go out of whack, and that's how you get like a Darth Jar Jar or Luke Skywalker that just kind of lives on a beach. um, and just the true mayhem that comes from that. So it's about really putting the galaxy back together to be what we want it to be, as the story that we know, of course, too. So look forward to that on September 13th on Disney Plus. I can't wait to chat about that series when it comes out then as well. Um, Over to the park side of things, a new Mandalorian adventure for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run was announced, and it appears that it will coincide with the release of the new movie. Looking forward to that. I love Falcon Smuggler's Run in its current iteration. I know hopefully this is just kind of like a theming that they do. Maybe it lasts for like 3 months and then they switch back to the old Smuggler's Run and switch back again. I like both, and I hope that both have a chance to exist. But if I'll also see what it looks like and enjoy probably for what it is. I can't wait to do this experience and to fly the Falcon along with Mando and Grogu beside me. So also probably the one of the biggest things I will say from the parks panel, for me at least for the show too, is that a new Indiana Jones attraction has been confirmed for Disney's Animal Kingdom in Florida. It's been long rumored for a while, and the permits have been put into place, and now they are finally moving forward with this. So rest in peace, Dino Land USA. But it is time again to move forward and to create this new experience for all of us. And I went to Disneyland on the day before D23 officially started. I rode the Indiana Jones Adventure twice. Like that was absolutely one of the highlights that you have to do when you go to Disneyland. It is a true marquee attraction, and it's awesome. It's awesome, and I hope. And first off, I'm glad that it's coming to an Indiana Jones inspired attraction is coming to Walt Disney World itself, but also that they announced that it will be unlike any indie ride currently in existence. So there's the one down in Disneyland. We have the one in Tokyo. It's like Kingdom Crystal Skull inspired, but it's not related to the movie at all. And of course, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril roller coaster that is in Disneyland Paris. So in this, as they kind of discussed on the Disney Parks blog, this is a full verbatim quote. In this new adventure, the man with the hat has recently discovered a perfectly preserved Maya temple, and that can only mean one thing. It's time to explore it. He's heard rumors about a mythical creature deep within the temple, and he's got to see it for himself. So he brings us along on the adventure. But there will be snakes? But will there be snakes? We'll just have to wait and see. I love the description of that. It sounds right up the alley for what an Indiana Jones inspired adventure should be. This guy has probably been all over the world doing thousands and thousands and thousands of different adventures, exploring the supernatural and just all that. And let's drop us down in this Tropical Americas section. Encanto, the new ride that they announced, is going to be right across the street there in that space. And the concept art, which you can see on the Disney Parks blog right now, is just really cool itself. And I think the temple they're going to put up is going to be just so immaculate and cool. And more indie in the parks. Give me that. Give me the more merchandise. I will take all of it, and I just rest in peace to my wallet, as it's going to be suffering tremendously when this ride comes out. I've seen rumors 2027 is when they anticipate this to be. Maybe it's sooner. I hope it's sooner because I want this like tomorrow. So give it to me right now, guys. Lastly, I did want to note that I did have the opportunity to go to the Legends ceremony, and at that portion, which concluded the D23 Expo, not the Expo, but the convention, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event, as they're now calling it, Harrison Ford, Frank Oz, and John Williams received the notion and honor of being a Disney legend. And Frank and Harrison got emotional in terms of how they spoke about this honor and recognition. Unfortunately, John couldn't be there, I assume due to health reasons. Also, the man is in his mid-90s now, so totally understand on that. But the Pacific Symphony did a prearranged motif of various themes that he has done throughout his career, which was mostly just Star Wars and Indiana Jones stuff, with stormtroopers walking around and aspects of the films being out on display as they were performing this little concerto piece here. So it was just a truly amazing experience to be in the room for that, just to see what the Honda Center experience was like, and just an absolute blast. And then we got to hang out with Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi a little bit more during the convention. We got to meet Sean Dagenhart, who we also did a preview episode with on the Coffee with Kenobi podcast as well. And then we did our little post reaction as well, which you can find on their social media platforms and podcast sites as well. Just a truly a wonderful time in the Anaheim area. I can't wait to go back, and I hope that this, again, like I was saying, I hope that everybody sees how awesome this convention was, and maybe we can all meet up again, because I think with the concept moving forward will be is like Star Wars Celebration will be every other year versus the D23 convention. So this could theoretically be the next best thing in those off years for Star Wars fans to get together and to showcase what offerings Lucasfilm is willing to present. So very excited for all that, and I can't wait to see where the future of this convention goes. But with that, let's go back in time a little bit here and talk to Dan Z. This was recorded on the Saturday of the convention, so the entertainment showcase had already happened. And let's catch up with our friend Dan Z with Coffee Kenobi right now about the fun that is taking place at the convention and just his thoughts on the offering so far, particularly the Skeleton Crew trailer. So stay tuned, folks. All right, folks, we are here at the Anaheim Convention Center, actually in the Hilton across the street from the Anaheim Convention Center. And I ran into our pal, good friend of the show, Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi, who's also here at D23 reporting on all things Lucasfilm and just everything in the world of Disney. Dan, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Anthony, it's great to see you. I'm very excited. I got to see you on the show floor yesterday briefly. As you know, you're like two starships passing in the night. It's great to see you.
Absolutely. It's good to see you, too. And this is what the wonderful thing of these conventions are, is that we get to see each other in person again.
Yes.
Like, we met at Star Wars Celebration 2 years ago in person, and of course we've done several podcasts since then, and now we get to reconvene again and just see how each other are doing. And I think this is just one of the wonderful things about this convention here. But what brings you to D23? Like, what originally brought you to this convention? Why did this stand out for you amongst things? And, you know, there's Star Wars Celebration, now there's D23. So why does this one also have a place in your schedule?
Sure. Well, that's a good question. Honestly, I've been drawn to this for a while, just because I love all things Disney. And when I was in college, I did the Walt Disney World College program. I did it 3 separate times. I have so many fond memories of going to Disney as a child. I proposed to my wife, Deanna, at the Polynesian Resort. Oh. And we had our honeymoon at Disney, and we did the Disney cruise and the Disney Dream. I just always loved it. I'm a big fan, of course, the Marvel stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not on level as I am Star Wars, but it's pretty close. Yeah. And I love all the Disney, the theme parks, the movies.
Oh, that's so cool.
And being able to run into people. Like, to me, that's my favorite part. Getting in to talk to people, fellow Star Wars fans, people you talk to online all the time. It's just an amazing thing.
Yeah. I second all of that. And, you know, the Beatles broke up formally at the Polynesian, and you created a marriage at the Polynesian.
That's right.
So as one ends, another begins. I love that, and it's so good to have you here at this convention because, again, like you said, there's so much to do here. There's so much to see. And it's always so cool to see that all this is under one umbrella.
Yeah.
We can get so siloed in the Lucasfilm just generalness of it all and just think, oh, it's only Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Willow, American Graffiti, all that stuff. But no, there's Marvel and all that other stuff that it's so cool that we get to be a fan of so many things here. And I think it's healthy when you're a fan that you like a ton of different stuff. Like if we just focused on Star Wars 100% of the time, we'd burn out so fast, right?
Right.
And the fact that there is stuff for Percy Jackson here, there's stuff for the Disney Cruise Line. It's just so cool to see that all this exists under one umbrella.
So if you can, what is one thing aside from Star Wars overall at the convention that you have seen or you're looking forward to seeing as we go through the rest of the convention here?
Sure, well, definitely the Lucasfilm thing, but that's obviously Star Wars related. So I'm looking forward to going through the Marvel experience. You get to go through the TVA, which you've told me you've already done.
Yes.
And I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to find out about in the Disney Parks panel tonight. What kind of information is going to be revealed there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be really cool. And I love that it's at the Honda Center now. And you got to go last night to the entertainment expo, whatever they want to call it, showcase.
Disney Studios Showcase.
And there was a lot. I mean, as soon as they got done with one thing, I'm like, how can they have more? And then they just kept going and going and going. I know much, as a person that flew in yesterday, you're very tired at the end of all things. But what was one of the big highlights? Obviously, the Skeleton Crew trailer was unveiled, but what was some of the other things that stood out to you at that part of the convention?
There's two things that stood out to me for the studio showcase. One was seeing some Mandalorian footage for the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah,
I got to see the Mandalorian. It looked like he's in a TIE pilot or a TIE fighter, although I don't know if that's what it was, but he was with Zeb.
Okay, love it.
That was electric. And then for the Marvel stuff, they showed Harrison Ford transform into the Red Hulk.
Oh,
and
man.
I got to see Harrison as a Red Hulk. I have goosebumps now.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
it was so awesome. Like, he even had chest hair, his face, the hair. I mean, it looked like Harrison, but he's the Red Hulk. And I freaked out. It was so cool.
That is
even now I'm
amazing.
freaking out. And I'm in the lunch cafeteria.
That is amazing. I mean, just the fact that we're even saying those words, Harrison Ford and Red Hulk.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? If you'd have told me 10 years ago that was a thing, like, I would have said, you're crazy. He would never do that. And here we are. Harrison Ford, past his Indiana Jones time, when you think, wow, is he ever going to do an action role like that again? Seemingly is doing the action role of action roles now with Red Hulk. Just so many cool things that they are showcased here. And again, it's like the Disney umbrella has so much under it. Like, I even saw that the David Blaine thing that you guys got was like...
That was cool.
A magic trick. Entire stadium and a magic trick here. How did the whole Honda Center experience work? Because I imagine how this goes could be a precursor for Star Wars Celebration. If they want to have a big panel over there, a big kickoff thing, because a lot more people can get in there.
Sure.
But how was, in your opinion, how would you say the overall experience went from top to bottom?
I mean, the stage production and the value of the sound in there, the lighting was tremendous. It was like another level of entertainment value, and since it's a hockey arena anyway, they've got that built in. The biggest challenge was getting in and out of there because they had to bus you over, and there's also construction in that area.
Oh, of course.
So that took a long time to get out. That was not my favorite part, but honestly, what can you do? I think I really don't know what else they could have done because it sets itself up so nicely.
You know, I figured that would happen, right? The whole transportation thing seemed like it probably would have been the most difficult aspect of it, both getting people there and then busing them back, especially at, I think it was 11 o'clock, 10:45 that it eventually got finished.
Yeah.
And it probably took people up to 2 hours to get back to the convention center if they were relying on, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh no! How did you not just like sleep on the bus and all that?
Honestly, I know that this is going to be a lot.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be intense, and I also know that because people like you and I are here as content creators, we can bring D23 to people who can't come here for whatever reason.
Exactly.
And that motivates me to do that. And I realize I can sleep, later. I can sleep on the airplane home, which I definitely will. I can sleep through a
I don't blame you.
But right now it's fine. It's just adrenaline and passion that gets you through it.
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. And those first look experiences are that's what you're here for.
That's right.
That's what people are here for. That's why they have this thing. They want to showcase things, and we're here to view it and just report on it. And I'm so glad you're able to have that experience. And that Skeleton Crew trailer also came out in this. Finally, it was officially launched. And that was just a truly magnificent thing that finally, I know people have been clamoring for this thing for years. I mean, it was 2022 we saw a little bit of footage for this thing, and now finally we have a full-on trailer. First initial impressions overall about that, and what are you most excited for in the Skeleton Crew?
You'll appreciate this. I found it warm and cozy.
warm and cozy.
Honestly.
That is and it's coming out in December. It's perfect. Like, this is incredible.
It looked great. It did have the Amblin feel that they've continued to talk about, and I wasn't sure about something like that because some people say that, and it doesn't come across as authentic, but it very much felt like that. And even like we saw a suburban neighborhood and lawns. And, but it was in the world of Star Wars, and I found myself even more excited about it than I ever would have been.
Yeah.
I really was drawn to it.
I literally said, like, it was different, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, seeing those things are like, oh, that reminds me of, like, growing up in my own backyard as a kid. And like, why wouldn't Star Wars have? It's such a vast galaxy. Why are we limiting ourselves to not think that there would be a place with like yards and neighbors and stuff like that?
That's
like,
cool.
Not everything has to be Tatooine.
Right.
I think that's warm and cozy. What a wonderful way to describe it.
Exactly, because I know that's one of the impetuses. When you and I talked years ago and you started the show, I remember you saying that was the atmosphere you wanted.
That's exactly it. And if Skeleton Crew is literally the Star Wars embodiment of Force Ghost Conversations, then we've done our work
We've
here.
done our unofficial advertising.
We absolutely have, and I'm glad that the trailer exists. We got some posters for this.
Me too.
What else are you that you've seen at Lucasfilm at the Pavilion during the D23 so far has really just like blown your mind to this point?
ILM Stagecraft, there's nothing like it in the world. I've never been to D23, San Diego Comic-Con, Celebration, anything. It's just incredible to be able to be a part of that. I mean, you got to do that. You got to be on the stage to do that. And I just think there's just nothing like that. It's just mind-blowing. Plus, getting to hear Doug Chiang explain how it worked, tremendous.
It's mind-blowing. Absolutely. I mean, the audience, I don't even think we can give it the credit that it deserves for the size and scope of the stagecraft itself, because it's floor to ceiling in the Anaheim Convention Center. I have no idea how they even brought it here.
A lot of
painstaking hours of setup.
Screwdrivers.
Can you believe it? It's just simple screwdrivers putting together this big, massive computer screen. They're literally using it for presentations at the convention here. Like, they're putting PowerPoints on the background of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just nuts. It's a big round computer screen up there that they do this incredible work with, and it's revolutionizing filmmaking. It is, and that's not a hyperbole.
No, it's changed the world.
It literally has changed the world in entertainment I will say for the better. The way that they're talking about how sustainable it is, how it's just easier for productions and budgets and all that stuff. That means more content, more, better, and faster.
Right, makes sense. It's amazing.
For us people that appreciate this stuff, we're like, give me more and faster, and this is feeding the machine.
Yes, it is.
I think that is truly wonderful. And later today, we have a conversation with Manny Jacinto, who, of course, is Chimera the Stranger in The Acolyte. Dan, what are you most looking forward to hearing in that conversation?
I just want to see him in person and hear and discuss the training and, in his mind, what made that show work and what he put into the character. And it's always good to hear actors talk about their craft and it's going to be fun. We'll probably head over there pretty soon.
Yes, absolutely we will. Any last thoughts that you have about the D23 convention, or as perhaps why people should come to this in the future?
Sure.
Because I think we should make this like the off-season Star Wars celebration. I want all of our friends coming here and having a good time and experiencing all this, because we're fans of all this stuff too.
Right. No, it's great. What I love about it is that I find myself eternally grateful that Coffee with Kenobi is only Star Wars, because if I like this umbrella as a fan, but if I had to cover it as a content creator, I think I'd have to hire Palpatine to clone me or something. Yeah. It would just be too much. So it's just fun to bask it all in, because you've got your fan hat, you've got your podcast hat, and you just get to see a lot of cool things in ways that you can't see anywhere else, and it's just great. And I'm super stoked that I got to run into you and hang out a little bit too. Absolutely. And it's truly a pleasure, and probably some of the best parts of this convention is the people you get to meet. So thank you for coming on to chat about your experiences with D23 here. And of course, people should probably already know where to find you, but where can they find you and Coffee with Kenobi online? Sure, just go to coffeewithkenobi.com for the show and go to dannymedia.com for me.
So I hope you all enjoyed that little interlude that we had there. So great to always run into Dan and to see all the fun things that he's doing at these types of conventions. So just the fact that he got to be in the room for the entertainment showcase and to just kind of hear his thoughts on the Lucasfilm offerings so far at the convention is a fun way to really get our focus and thoughts in the mind of someone that's boots on the ground at this type of stuff and reporting on it. So it's just really fun to just catch up with him and, of course, check out Coffee with Kenobi and all the fun offerings that they're showcasing on their podcast. And also, all the D23 recaps that we did, the preview show. I was on an episode similarly where we interviewed ourselves in the middle of the convention. And then once the convention concluded, both Dan, Sean, and I also got together and had a dinner together, and we recorded again. It was just a really lovely time to hang out with them and hear all the wonderful plethora of experiences that we've all had across the board at this awesome convention here. So that is a look during the convention itself. And now let's transition over to a full recap extravaganza featuring Matt Richardson again, who we had on our preview episode a few weeks ago. And now we're back here to discuss everything at full length and detail again. And again, like I was saying, I can't wait to hear what Matt did, because he certainly, our paths didn't cross once at the convention. I ran into so many people so many times during the D23 convention, and didn't run into Matt once, but I did follow along on his TikTok and Instagram to just kind of get a sense of where he was at. And he was just doing so many cool things. So I can't wait to hear from himself what are the fun things that he liked, the takeaways that he has, and the tips and recommendations that he also has for people in the future. So right on the other side of this little short break here, we will be back with our full conversation with Matt. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. The D23 Expo may have happened a few weeks ago, but we're still reeling from all the news, the announcements, just the whole thing of it all. And we couldn't pack it all into one episode. So we're having one big extravaganza here, one long Force Ghost Conversations episode. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Dan Zer, which was recorded live at D23. But of course, we're here now post the event to have a full recap discussion. And of course, we had to bring back Matt Richardson, Matt Hungry again on TikTok, to see what he did during the convention and just have a conversation about all the cool stuff that went down and the things that we saw, because it was mind-blowingly cool, but also so much and vast and just so wild. But welcome back, Matt. How are you doing? And welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I am still exhausted from D23. It was, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm surprised my eyes are still open right now.
I'm 100% on the same board with you there. Unfortunately, we both went to Disneyland the day before,
Yep.
and I pulled a 12-hour day there at the park, and I thought, man, I'm not really setting myself up for success here, and I
Right.
struggled the rest of the weekend because of that, but so worth it at the end of the day. And of course, great to meet you there in
Likewise.
person, taking this friendship off the internet, so to speak.
Yeah.
And just so cool to meet you and to meet all these other wonderful people at the D23 convention. But I want to start with just simple answer here. I was curious if you could describe your D23 experience in one word and why.
I would say overwhelming. It's like you are at the world's biggest buffet that has everything you want, every bit of your favorite food, and then you have to, on the fly, decide what you want to eat and what your strategy is, knowing that you can only eat so much,
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just the abundance, sheer abundance of stuff there.
Wow.
There was no way anybody could do all of it, and so you just that it just made it very overwhelming because there's so much good stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, you come in with a game plan, and then lo and behold, you're that first Friday, right, you're stuck outside. Like, you have to wait even an hour to get into the convention because of how busy it is, and that immediately throws your game plan off if you were like, oh, I'm trying to get into this panel first thing, or I little did I know, I didn't even know you had to queue at like 4 a.m. to get into the virtual queues for all the different stores that they had on site. So I was like, well, that went out the window. I thought I could just stand by in a standby line and just walk in whenever it was empty. And like, no, they were very strict about that. So totally overwhelming, totally a lot all at once. And then I hope by a Sunday, or at least maybe early parts of Saturday, you had at least your bearings on the situation and were like, I kind of know what I'm doing here. I have a sense of everything here and I know where everything's at. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The first day is a whirlwind, and then you can sort of get what it's all about. As first timers, I think like I knew going into this like it was going to be weird. You know, I'm used to professional conferences. I'm not
Hmm.
used to fan conferences. So but I luckily a lot of people gave me a lot of great advice along the way. But it's still there was a learning curve. Definitely a
Yeah.
learning curve.
Yep, exactly. Not the same atmosphere as a working convention, I
Not at all.
imagine.
Not at all.
A little bit more joyous and happy,
Yeah.
I think, across the board. But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's a lot all at once, so many people, and I'm glad that we were both able to come out of this with positive, fun. Like, I want to go back. I can't. I'm sad
Oh
that it's
yeah.
over. Personally, like, I think that it's the sign of a good time when you feel sad about something that it's over. And like, I felt sad 2 hours before it closed on Sunday.
There was like withdrawal immediately after when it was over. I was missing
Hmm.
it, and even though it was a lot and I was exhausted, it just yeah, you feel like, "Whoa, that was something," and you just feel like a little sad the next day, even though, even though you got a lot out of it, it was just this
Yeah.
incredible experience, and all good things must come to an end, and hopefully I'll be able to go back next year. That's all I was thinking. I mean,
Fingers
next
crossed.
in 2026.
2026, but I
Yep,
think if I understand correctly, they do the off one every year,
right,
Destination D down here
yep,
in Orlando. So
right.
hopefully that's a thing again.
Yeah,
But
hopefully.
heading into my next question here, which I think you've touched upon a little bit, did the convention overall meet your expectations? And and perhaps what ways was it different than what you anticipated?
So it met and exceeded my expectations, not only in terms of quantity but quality. So there was much more things than I expected, and then the
Yeah.
things that were there were of a much higher quality. They were offering much more. Whether there was a panel that was like much more deep and interesting and provided
Hmm.
more, or a walkthrough experience, or a character meet and greet, or a giveaway. Everything was just better than I expected, and there was a lot more variety than I expected.
Sure.
And then I think for me, the other thing that I just didn't expect was the sheer number of other creators that were there.
Mm,
I heard that Disney invited a lot this year. I wasn't one of the invited ones, but I met a lot of creators out on the show floor. It was really nice, and that was actually just didn't even think about that possibility. I met a lot of people who I've been kind of engaging with online for a long time, so that was really cool.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pulling for you. One day you'll get that invite.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, one day, both of us will be there one day. I
Yes,
hope.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. We're
hosted by
working our
Disney.
we're working our way up the invite list there.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. I on from my point of view, I certainly was blown away by how well it was put together and how professional everything seemed. It seemed like because it's in house at Disney, they have their own team running it and staff working it, and it's not just run by a bunch of fans and volunteers. It just seemed like it was more straightforward. People knew where you needed to be at the right times. If you had a question, they were like, great, I know where this is at over here. Oh, you have a virtual queue, you need to be in this line over here. It just seemed more well executed and efficient in terms of the experience overall. And maybe because it's however many D23s they've done to this point. So they've had many under their belts at this point, and they've probably taken some learning lessons and feedback along the way in order to make it the experience that you and I both had this time. Or maybe just because it's the Anaheim Convention Center, it's kind of in their backyard, it's
Yeah.
their bread and butter, kind of a thing that they know at this point. But I just overall felt like I was welcomed and that everybody knew what they were doing, which made it more effective for me to have a better time. First off, too, I want to mention I'm just very proud of the Disney team for doing is as soon as you got through the security gate, they gave everybody one of these things. Now, of course, the people at home listening can't hear it, but I have the map, the visual guide of the Anaheim Convention Center that clearly listed out where everything is at, all the different booths that they had for the convention, where the panels were located. If they were at this certain stage, you kind of had a sense of where they were at, and they gave you a bag that you could put all the goodies that you were collecting throughout the day in, as well as a lanyard for your your badge, like all that stuff. Right as soon as you got through the door was perfect to be giving to somebody. And I think any convention, whether it be a work one, professional one, a Disney fan fun event, should be taking some lessons from this one in terms of how to effectively welcome somebody and make them feel really, really embraced as soon as they enter the space.
Absolutely. Yeah. They very well produced event. I think they're picking up a lot of lessons from Disneyland operations.
Yeah.
They had a lot of Disneyland, I think, cast members in there helping out with everything. That makes a big difference. Big events are hard to do. I've been at bad big events and I've been at good big events. And this is a very, very well run big event.
Oh, I bet the bad events stand out, and
Oh yeah. Bad
it's
events are
it's
bad. Yeah.
it's bad. It's laughable at a certain
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really want to start this conversation with a look at the show floor and some of the panels that you experienced, the stuff in the Anaheim Convention Center. Of all of that, what would you say was the most impactful experience that you had? And I'm most excited to hear about this question, frankly, because I know nothing of what you did over the last the 3 days of the convention. So blow me away
Yeah.
here, my friend.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a whirlwind. I think the panels generally really took me by surprise.
Okay,
As I
great.
said, like the quality of everything was much higher than expected, and they gave you more value for being present in the room than I expected. Again,
Yeah.
I'm used to corporate panels where the conversation is boring and dry, and every single person on stage wants to promote themselves, and then
Yeah.
every person asking a question wants to promote themselves. And in this case, so I did the Miss Piggy retrospective when the Muppets turned 70. I did the
Love
New
it.
York World's Fair panel. I did the Tiana panel, all about everything outside of Tiana's, in Tiana's world that's new. And then the tribute to Richard M. Sherman, the songwriter for
Oh,
Mary
brilliant.
Poppins. He just had passed away earlier this year.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to get into a bunch of great panels, and every single one delivered more value. Like
Mhm.
for creating Tiana's world, of course, we had a bunch of Imagineers up there, and Nika Noni Rose was there, and it was and there's the creator of the new Tiana series was there, and it was a great conversation. And then in the end, Anika Noni Rose just sang from down in New Orleans from
Oh,
the film. It was just like I was like, I'm even like, you can hear me. I'm still like, I can't believe it. I
yeah.
was like 4 rows back. I was in the middle, and she was singing
Really?
right there, and I was just like, this is so cool. And every single panel had some sort of real gem in there that
Mhm.
really, like, it was clear that they wanted to deliver a good experience to the people in those panels. They were worked very hard on them. They were well researched. They had great guests. They were really thought out. A bit scripted. They're a bit scripted, but
Sure.
still delivering on what your expectations are and exceeding those expectations. So generally, the panels were much better than I expected.
Oh my gosh, that sounds brilliant to begin with. Like for you had the lightning lane, as they call it, the reservation for the Tiana's
Yep.
world, right?
Yep.
So that's how you got the front 4 rows back. They gave you the first seating into the space, but perfect for such like you didn't know what you were walking into, and then to get that live concert performance. I mean, it's only a thing you could get at D23 and being
Right.
in the room itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was an incredible experience, and just definitely just exceeded my expectations. I really enjoyed each panel. I mean, Disney is made up of show people. They
Yeah,
want to put on a
yeah.
good show. They want to entertain you. And it's not it's just they deliver. They really do
Hmm.
deliver. And so the panels, you read the description of the panels, you thought, oh, this sounds interesting. Might be an interesting conversation. I'm sure it could be boring. Nothing was boring.
No,
Everything was really, really great.
no, you're absolutely right. And I think I've seen some snippets of the Richard Sherman Remembrance panel too, which like the cast that they brought out for that conversation is mind-blowingly amazing. Like I
Yeah.
believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob Iger was there, and
Mhm.
Kevin Feige and John
Yeah.
Favreau, and just a full
It was
plethora
hosted by
list.
John Stamos.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it
gosh,
was,
John Stamos too,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
all the Johns were
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Just like wow.
It was great. Yeah, and a lot of panels just had celebrities coming out. It was incredible. It was
Yes.
just it was really, really cool. One of the funnier things that happened in the panels was, so the Miss Piggy retrospective about, it's about Muppets turning 70, and a look at back at sort of some Miss Piggy from the perspective of the Walt Disney Archive. So they're bringing
Okay.
out props and everything.
Oh,
But
amazing.
to set the whole thing up, there's a video that plays of Miss Piggy, and basically she's saying something like, you know, I was going to come to this panel, but I found out I'm not getting the Legends Award. And I'm looking at this list of legends and I'm thinking, huh, how is it that I'm not a legend? So I'm like boycotting D23
Oh,
and good
wow.
luck on your panel. And it was just like, it wasn't just like you could imagine people being like, well, like the panel being dull and being like, welcome to this retrospective, but they gave it a
Mhm.
little spin. They gave it a little bit of a fun framing. And I just like really appreciated that. It put a smile on my face.
Oh, what a way to welcome you to the
Yeah.
convention, right? It's
Yeah.
like, here's the Muppets, here's Miss Piggy, and everything's gonna be all right. We're in for a good
Yeah.
time, and that's again, like I said, the only D23 moments that you can have. So I hope this is, if anything, that this podcast is going to do for folks is not only showcase our enthusiasm for this convention, but also to entice others to come join us there, because I think there's something for everybody clearly at this convention in some way, shape, or form. And I think that was more evidence than anything than the show floor itself, which had just about everything, not just the panels themselves, but the show floor had
Yeah.
the Lucasfilm Pavilion, an Avatar experience, the Marvel Studios thing. Hulu even had like a section for the bear where you could walk through it and get yelled at like you're a member of the staff, which just blows my mind that people would want to do that. And a whole thing, Abbott Elementary had something, and the whole Cars thing from the archive was really neat too. And of course, I'm just touching the surface. There was a whole Disney fairy tale weddings thing that they got going on, and the cruise line had its own thing. Did you any of those from? First off, did you get to explore the show floor as much as you wanted to? And what stood out from you among those there?
I didn't get to see as much as I hoped, but I did do the Avatar experience. I saw the cars.
Hmm.
I They had Minnie in her new outfit for the cruise line, so I got to meet
Yeah.
her. And I did the merchandise stuff as well. I went through a couple of the
Cool.
stores as well. But I didn't. That was like the thing I think where is my blind spot. Like I wanted to do
Mhm.
that bear experience. I'm currently watching the bear. I'm
I just
binge
finished it
watching it.
myself. It was
Uh,
great.
I'm loving it, and I wanted to do that every time I kind of walked by. The line was too long, and I had other things going on, and I
Hmm.
kept trying to get back over there and never managed to. So maybe next year it'll be back
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
next
as long
time.
as the show's still popular and
Yeah,
and rocking, they'll
yeah,
they'll find a
yeah,
way to incorporate it.
yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, the Imagineering Pavilion that was
Oh my
like
gosh.
stunning, stunning. Oh, so much good stuff there. You would walk in, and they would have a show on that center stage in the Imagineering Pavilion. You'd see Lanny Smoot. Smoot?
Yes, Smoot.
Yeah, yeah, who did the hollow tile floor and all kinds of interesting inventions for Imagineers, just standing there and
A legend in his
talking.
own right. Yeah, just
Yeah,
talking.
exactly. The hollow tile floor was actually operating, and just like everything in there was incredible. And then it was just like tons of actual Imagineers with a big smile on their face, ready to answer any question you have, or almost any question you have. And it was delightful just to like interact with them. That was so cool. They don't have to do that, right? They
No,
don't
no,
have
they
to do
don't.
that, and we're lucky that we got to see that. I kept going back to the Imagineering Pavilion, and I was lucky enough to go in there on Sunday
Ooh,
after the parks panel to
afterwards. Yep.
yeah to see the stuff that they had unveiled. So that was really cool.
So, listeners, just to give you, in case you were unaware of what we're talking about here, not only did they have a whole Imagineering pavilion at the convention, but after the Saturday evening Parks panel, Horizons, the presentation that they did, where they unveiled a lot of the new stuff, which we'll be talking about in depth later in this conversation, they showcased a whole different area of that whole pavilion that they kind of had roped off. That they were like, come check back on Sunday when we can talk about this stuff and show you some of the stuff that we had going on here. So I'm glad that Matt got to do it, because I think I almost went by it, and then people were saying like it's a 40-minute wait to get in. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do something else instead.
Yeah, it was a bit of a wait, and they weren't even letting people line up, and they were trying to keep people moving because there's not enough room for enough
Hmm.
for the line. But I had someone had tipped me off about maybe a little opening coming up in like they said, "Are you nearby? It'll be opening up in the next 2 minutes." And so I would like kind of like hid behind a
Ooh,
column and jumped right into line.
just go right
And
in. Yep.
yeah, and it still was quite a bit of a wait, but it was well worth it because we saw some of we'll talk about all the announcements. I got to see some
Yeah.
models and stuff from that. So
Oh, I love a good model.
yeah, yeah.
Imagineering knows how to put together a good model, and to your point too, it's just so fun to see like these Imagineers that you'll see on stuff like the Imagineering story and like the behind the attraction documentaries that they'll do on Disney Plus. These kind of rock stars in many ways, just walking around casually on the show floor, and for some reason I'm good at facial recognition. I can spot people in a crowd pretty quickly, and I'll be like, "Oh, I know you, I know you, I know you. Oh, there's
Yeah,
Scott Trowbridge. Oh, there's Bob Weiss.
yeah.
Oh, there's it's just
I
walking
I
through."
I was walking in the I was walking in the Imagineering Pavilion, and Scott Trowbridge was in there, and he was just like making sure things were like in the right spot. He was checking to make
Yeah.
sure, like, the guy was really like making sure that this experience was great. I mean, they're all about creating experiences, and this experience about creating experiences was just as good as, the experiences they create for the parks. So I just really appreciated that. They do not have to do that, and they do it, and they make it amazing. So I absolutely love that.
Yes, and we are all for the better for them taking the time out to do the
Yeah.
figure out the minor details and to focus on that stuff and to
Yeah.
showcase it to us in this fun way.
Yeah.
So Matt, I told you I kind of spent my entire 3 days at the Lucasfilm Pavilion hanging out with this big volume set that they
Oh,
had
that
brought over
looks
here.
so cool.
So I know you have some questions for me about that, so feel free to ask
So
any that you want at this time.
yeah, so I wasn't able to get into this volume, and I wanted to what is the experience there? What happened? I got to know about that.
So every day at 10, they would start off with a panel where the team that kind of runs the visual effects for Lucasfilm uh, showcased what it is, gave a presentation on it, and then practically showed what it looks like to film using this big setup. So they would actually turn it on, use a set that they had done from one of the previous shows that they had done in Star Wars over the last couple of years, and then showcased how as the camera moves and you like it can move and it showcases on the background what the camera actually sees, and you can see it in the different TVs surrounding you. So as an actor, you can really immerse yourself and know what the full background and setting of what your space is. So they would do that to start off every day, and I did that on Friday. The first thing, as soon as I got through the door, I queued for that and got right in, and did that. But then afterwards, they did a meet, not necessarily like a meet and greet, but they did a photo opportunity where you could put yourself in the volume and get filmed by their cameras. And I did that. And,
So
it's on
cool.
my Instagram, it's on my TikTok, to see the video of me hanging out with a droid and being in the Star Wars itself. It was so amazing and cool. I just can't believe that if this was even a thing. And I'll tell you a little bit of insider knowledge here, which is public now, but it's at the time wasn't necessarily the case. Is that volume that they had brought in there is actually the one that they're currently using to film the new film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. So literally a screen used, film used volume set was imported from somewhere in California, Los Angeles, and then brought over here, built up in the convention center. And I tell you, folks, I'm not doing a good job explaining the scope of this thing. It goes from floor to ceiling, and I don't know how they actually got it to fit in there. A lot of painful building of this thing and a lot of hours in order to make it happen. But it is floor to ceiling. It's got to be at least maybe 50 to 60 feet wide. And the scope of it is incredible. And they used that whole pavilion there for other panels throughout the day. And they would basically use that as their computer, which was incredible. Like you'd see PowerPoint presentation behind it and just moving slides. And mine was blown as to that experience. So every time that they had a panel in the hours in between, they would continue to reopen up the standby line for the photo opportunity that they were using for that. And they'd change the backgrounds and sometimes have some stormtroopers in the background, just
And did
based
they
off of
have
what it was like.
and did they have like practical set pieces? I think I saw some practical set pieces
Yes,
and props out that kind of help sell the
exactly. And they also use that for the demonstration of they have realized now that fans are starting to catch on to what is real and what isn't. So now they are trying to go leaps and bounds beyond to trick our minds into thinking, not recognizing what is real and what isn't, and just to continue making this aura of illusion feasible for everybody. So they would have stormtroopers that for my picture they had a whole droid and other like boxes, like cargo boxes that you would see in a Star Wars basically. um and that was just, it was so cool. I'm sad that I had to leave it. Like that, I could have just
yeah.
stayed there. I did basically all 3 days there. Everything else went out the window that I had planned to do. It's so unfortunate because I wanted to do other panels, but the Lucasfilm took top priority, and it paid
Yeah.
off. It paid off
Yeah.
because I got to do so many other cool panels there too. They had they're doing a new Lego show in September, and they had the showrunners there, and they gave away some Lego, and I won the big box set of a Millennium
Oh, nice.
Falcon. So I had to
Nice.
ship that home. Wasn't expecting
Yeah.
that, but also had to carry that around the entire day on Friday, so that was fun. Um, and Manny Jacinto from the Good Place, also from the
Yeah,
Acolyte, was there on Saturday, and that was the big marquee panel for Lucasfilm, and was basically one row away from the front for that one, and got a lot of great pictures and video of him. And then we got to do a meet and greet with him afterwards,
that's awesome.
where got to chat with him. We got a signed picture. It's right over here. It's truly a magnificent experience again. And I think that's the cool part about D23 is that you could be a specialist in something. And so, like a person that was so into Star Wars like myself, I could tailor all my experiences to be Star Wars focused if I wanted to, and I didn't miss a thing Star Wars. Or if I was a fan of of Marvel Studios and the cinematic universe that they had a ton of different panels throughout the 3 days that you could just have tailored your experiences to that. Or if you're a fan of the Hulu stuff or animation, Disney parks, all that was available to people. Or if you want to do a mix and match bag, all that stuff is available to people. And I think that was really cool how you can just have a plethora of different experiences. So such as like you go into the Miss Piggy panel, and Richard Sherman, and the Tiana creating Tiana's world. I mean, it's just so fun that all this exists under one umbrella.
Yeah,
Wild.
there's so much. You can, yeah, you can absolutely deep dive on anything you want there, but you can also just sort of take a little bit from everything. It's great.
Yeah,
Really, really cool.
absolutely. And I want to talk about the big panels, as
Mm.
we in our preview episode, we noted that were taking place in the Honda Center, and you got to go to all 3 days. I
Mhm.
somehow wrangled my way into going on Sunday to the Legends ceremony, so we could talk about that experience. But I just want to kind of just get on a broad sense how you think that the experience at the Honda Center went. I imagine Friday was probably the biggest day of hiccups and figuring things out, because this is a
Yeah.
new experience even for the D23 team and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, how do you think the logistics were handled overall for that?
Overall, fairly well. I think the issue is that it's quite a bit of distance between the Anaheim Convention Center and the Honda
Yeah,
Center. They have plenty of buses, but there's just
you
Orange
can only
County
fit so many people
traffic.
on a bus. Yeah,
Yeah,
and also
and
that.
yeah, and so, I spent more time on the bus than I expected, and
Hmm.
it breaks continuity with your sort of experience of all of this. But when you walk into the arena for the first time and you see how massive it is and what
Hmm.
a stage setup they have, you're like, "Oh, I can see why they did this," right? There's just,
Yeah,
this used to be essentially just a ballroom, a big ballroom with flat seating. Now we actually have like basically stadium. We have arena seating,
literally.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and so there's just they really used it. They really used it well. It
Hmm.
was quite a spectacle. All 3 nights were quite a spectacle. All 3 nights
Yeah.
were very, very different. But yeah, logistically, like it breaks the continuity a little bit. You do spend a little bit more
Hmm.
time on the bus, but honestly, like by that time, your feet are a little sore anyway. You
You
meet
need
the
to sit.
person next,
Yeah.
yeah, you can talk to the person next to you, or just like close your eyes and snooze for a bit until you get there. But like honestly, I think all the trouble of busing people over there was well worth it
Hmm.
because of the spectacle we saw.
Now, how was getting back at the end of the night? Because I imagine 10 to 15,000 people all running for the buses at the same time might have created some type of traffic log.
Well, you're talking to someone who I bolt. Like when I know the show's ending, I have a way of wheedling my way out and getting, so because I know like I don't waste time. I was also for the Honda Center, I was solo, so I didn't know
Okay.
anyone around me.
Yeah.
I didn't need to wait for anybody. I didn't need to like make sure people were with
You're
me.
getting out.
Got right out there so fast and was at the head of the line because I knew that was going to be an issue, and so I didn't want to get caught up in that. So
I think that was smart, because I knew people that went there and they got caught for 2 hours getting back, and then that's getting back to the Anaheim Convention Center, and then it's picking up your bags because they had a very strict bag policy
right.
for that spot, and then it's going to your hotel after that, which I mean that's probably
Yeah.
1 2 a.m. at that point, and you're getting up at 6 7 a.m. for the next day, which I can imagine is a lot on somebody.
Yeah.
And by Sunday, I know a lot of people were sleeping in, they were tired. I could see
Yeah.
it on the faces of people. But
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that it went well overall, and they sold food and drink in the Honda Center, which is something I wasn't aware they would be doing, but glad to see that they did that, because especially that Sunday one that took place at 5, if they said allot yourself 90 minutes, right? You're getting there at prime dinner time, and it's gonna be hungry. People are gonna be hungry. Like, it's just leaving money on the table if you're not providing them options to eat and drink and all that stuff. Like, come on,
And
guys.
A question for you, and I was curious about this. It
Yeah.
seems to me like for those people who did not go to the Honda Center on certain nights, it kind of like freed up things on the expo floor. Was that your experience as well, or were you in the sort of the broadcast room, the simulcast room?
So they didn't have a simulcast room
Oh,
any of those days except for Sunday. Sunday was the one that
oh,
they had simulcast,
okay,
but then they released on Disney Plus afterwards. So for the Friday and Saturday ones that they were kind of keeping it hush hush for just those folks in the room, it did free up the at least Friday I can speak to more than anything
yeah,
because that was my day where I was like, great, I'm taking full advantage of it being open until 7.
yeah,
So the show floor really opened up. The Marvel Studios experience, which I imagine probably took the longest amount of time to wait, I was like, I'm going to do that. That
yeah,
only took about 15 minutes to get in through.
yeah,
So I think that was a wise call on that front. I tried to do shopping, then learning that it was no standby line. So that went out the window pretty fast on that one. But just walking around the rest of the show floor, getting my bearings set, going through the Avatar experience, the Imagineering Pavilion, all that was a lot easier to maneuver through. And I was able to take pictures of stuff. Like they had the full skeleton crew team of villains. They had their outfits and all that stuff at the Disney Plus Pavilion. So I was able to really get close up photographs and videos of all that for the social channels. So that really did open up that.
that's
And
good.
I will say the best thing that I will say for that in general was it allowed me to go back to my hotel because I, of course, was lugging around this huge
Yeah,
Lego thing the entire time. So I said, I'm great. I'm dropping this off and finding a place to eat around the convention center so I can follow along on Twitter as stuff is being announced, new trailers and announcements and stuff like that. And the restaurant wasn't full of people either a leaving Disneyland and California Adventure, but also it wasn't full of people leaving the Anaheim Convention Center as well. So that made for a better experience that time. But I will say the one downside is that that Friday panel went extremely long into the night, and I had I don't know where I heard this, but I thought it was supposed to end around 9. Like that was the original hope. They would keep things moving a bit faster, but then it turned into 11 or 11:30 even. And I had this theory where I was like, okay, I'll hang out the Hilton lobby bar right there at the Anaheim Convention Center, and you never know who you'll run into. So that was kind of my thing. I was like, oh, I'll just kind of stake out here and maybe run into someone cool here. But when the thing is still going on, I'm like, I got to go to bed. I can't do this. I got another day ahead of me. So that was the only downside to that. But overall, I think I could still follow along on Twitter, so I didn't feel like I was missing out too much. It allowed me to take care because I wasn't expecting to win this Lego thing, so that that
right,
allowed me to go to my room rather than having to go to the Honda Center and drop off my
right.
stuff with baggage and all that at the convention center and then pick that up later. I didn't have to deal with all that, which was great. And then Saturday, I actually went to LA, downtown LA itself, and I went to a kind of a comedy show, but kind of
Oh,
not. They had
nice.
a live table reading of a Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones with a bunch of different comedians,
Oh, nice.
Seth Green and a lot of other folks there. And that was my Saturday, but then got to pick up on all the parks news as I was in the Uber back home, and it's just like getting my mind blown about that one. But we'll cover that in a little bit here. So I'm glad to hear that the Honda Center was logistically a very sound thing for you. And now that we're at the Honda Center and specifically the festivities there, let's start with the Legend Ceremony. And this is one I actually got to be in there for, so I can talk to this one from firsthand experience myself. So did anything in that extravaganza itself stand out for you that you wish to highlight this time?
Generally speaking, after the entertainment showcase and the experiences showcase, the Legends ceremony just was much more snappy. It moved along really
It
quickly.
sure
Like,
did.
that was great. And I thought Ryan Seacrest was a great host. He
Yeah.
kept the show moving, and he's a very talented presenter. So it was great to have him. I think the things that really jumped out at me was seeing, you had all these massive celebrities, you have
Hmm.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Harrison Ford, and actually some of the best stuff were Martha Blanding, who
Yeah.
was the first Black tour guide at Disneyland and then worked her way up through the company and ended up retiring as doing merchandising for the holidays at Disneyland. She gave the greatest acceptance speech and had the most inspiring story, and it was right up there with all the celebrities and
Yeah,
all their great acceptance speeches and everything. So that was really cool. I really like that. I think all of us kind of fell in love with Martha that night because
sure
it was
did.
so cool to see that. And then I also thought Kelly Ripa was very funny.
She was. She was. I don't know if you take for granted or not, but I kind of forgot how comedic she actually is. Like I'm
Yeah,
not watching live with Kelly and every morning, right? So I don't really see this every day. And
yeah,
yeah, she was
she's funny.
a firecracker in terms of
Yeah,
her comedic chops on that one. So yeah,
yeah.
I will second all of that. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't say how cool it was to see Harrison
Harrison
Ford and
Ford,
Frank
yeah,
Oz get their
yeah,
flowers. Unfortunately, John Williams couldn't be there.
yeah,
I assume man's in his 90s, like he doesn't get out
yeah.
of bed for just about anything these days. But to have the Pacific Symphony kind of close out the ceremony with a rendition of a medley, I should say, of some of his big hits from Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and just to see the clips at the same time really highlighted the importance of having it at the Honda Center, because this is a thing that they could do a lot easier than that. And I was kind of taken aback at how I shouldn't have been surprised by this, frankly, but how much the crowd loved Miley Cyrus and how honest she was in her remarks too.
Yeah,
Like her being like, "I wish I could take back 2013 to 2016 me." I was like, "Oh wow, she went there." Okay.
yeah, yeah.
um, and to get a
And
Lainey Wilson concert too at the same time,
yeah.
like, come on, sign me up.
She came across really authentically. She really, she had a bit in the beginning where she talked about being afraid but doing something anyway,
Yeah,
and even standing up there made her afraid, and it just like I was like real authentic advice. It really came from the heart, and that really took me by surprise as well. I think I'm a little too old to be appreciative of Miley Cyrus on Disney in her time
the
with
Hannah
Disney.
Montana age. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a little too old for that, but like honestly, like I like her music, so it was great to see her, and she really gave a heartfelt acceptance. I love that.
totally, totally, all on board on that one. And it was funny. I don't know where you were sitting at, but in my seat, I could see the script,
The
so
teleprompter, yeah,
I could tell who was going off script.
yep,
And
yep,
looking at you, James Cameron, you
yep,
did not read a sentence of that
yep.
script.
And you can see the moment where the teleprompt
He gave
operator is
up.
like zipping, like trying to find a spot in the script to kind of bring it up to. I know in my section too, we were all kind of like turning our head to the left to look at the teleprompter, turn our head to the right to watch. It was very, very funny.
It was quite a humorous game that I
Yeah,
was playing. I'm glad that it seemed like others were doing that
yeah,
too. 'Cause also, part of me was like, we have what 14 of these people that we're getting
yeah,
through. Like, we gotta start moving. We can't
yeah,
have 15-minute speeches for everybody here,
yeah,
and they're doing these big productions of introducing them and bringing out
yeah,
famous people on top of famous people to introduce them. Like
yeah.
Lindsay Lohan's introducing Jodie Foster, who's then
Right.
introducing
Yeah. Yeah,
Jamie Lee
keep it
Curtis.
simple. It's great to have all these celebrities here, but just keep it simple, keep it
Keep
snappy,
it
right?
moving. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. This is people getting like this is an award ceremony. We're not
yeah,
we're not
yeah,
here just celebrating one person.
yeah.
Um and then just the last thing that I'll note that I thought was really impactful, and I got emotional at this part, was seeing all five of the voice actresses for the one some of the major, I don't want to say the major ones, but some of the major princesses of Disney, especially from the 90s onward. And to see Anika Noni Rose and Ming Na Wen really get noticeably longer standing
Yeah,
ovations than the
yeah,
other three up on stage,
yeah.
including Paige O'Hara and
Jodie
Jodie
Benson.
Benson. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, the audience has shifted here in a bit.
Yes. Yes. We were all kinda, like, looking at each other like, "Oh, guys, Jodie is Jodie gonna be, like, mad about this?"
Yeah, I don't I was everyone in my section too was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
This is very noticeable, and that's
Yes.
the only way I can really describe
Yes,
it.
it
There is like
was.
time was longer on those two, and
Yes,
they
yes.
both seem noticeable. Like, the actresses themselves were like, "Oh, wasn't expecting this."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was so funny. That was so funny.
It really was, and I want to shift now to kind of talking about the theatrical element, and I think
Mhm.
that the best time um, to that they had that on display was really for the entertainment showcase. So of all the trailers and teasers and first look, new film announcements, all that stuff, Which one did you see that got you the most excited for the future of the studio department?
So for me, I think Moana 2 got me the most excited. I liked the first Moana. They showed the trailer for it, and I was very happy about that. So that got me excited. Why,
It
why
was
are
it
you
was
laughing?
it wasn't Monster Jam with Dwayne
That
the
was
Rock.
weird. I was gonna say that's the weirdest part of the whole thing, and there must be some favor between The Rock
There
and
must
Bob
be.
Iger, where it's a favor. It's 100% a favor because
I'm
all of us
like,
were like, "What is this?"
yeah, they came out strong with Moana 2,
And then,
showcased that new trailer, which I thought was fantastic, and it gave a
yeah,
lot of the story bits for this. And then just fire went up. And I can only imagine what it was like in the room. It must have
yeah,
been blazing hot
yes,
because
yeah,
it
you
felt
felt it.
like they must have been doing that for like 2 minutes straight of just
Yeah.
fire going up into the air. And Dwayne Johnson being like, "Yeah, we're gonna do a Monster Jam movie now." Like, what
Well,
is
see,
this?
he didn't even. I don't think he said it was a movie. He said it was a live experience or something
Oh
like
my gosh.
that.
Okay,
Like
great. Even
we couldn't.
even
I couldn't
more
make
amazing.
sense of it. Yeah, I couldn't make sense of what we were even seeing or what this was or what it had to do with Disney. I could only assume it was just some big favor, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Moana 2, anything else?
Um, I'm interested in Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah?
And Tron
What did you
Ares.
think of sorry, before we,
Oh
move
yeah.
on to that, what did you think of the live action reveal of Stitch?
So the way they did the reveal was great. The kind of like Stitch taking over the arena, which is just appropriate for it. And
Yeah.
then they don't show much, really. You
Mhm.
don't see much, but it was just enough to be like, oh, okay, you got this sort of like quote unquote live action version, but it's not
Yeah.
truly live action. But so that was really interesting to me, and they were very creative about how they revealed that, like as though there was like a signal jam, and here comes Stitch, you know.
Mhm. And then, Tron Ares, you were saying too?
Tron Ares also, I mean, because I had just for the first time watched the original Tron and Tron Legacy just a few
Ooh.
weeks ago for the first time, and knowing about Tron, we knew about Tron Ares, but again, like they were showing some footage from it. It looked really good. The way again, like I like showmanship. I like the way they were presenting it. They just had like
Mm.
this like laser grid going across the arena and everything that was so cool, and Jeff Bridges coming out and everything.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It made me that just like it did what a trailer was supposed to do, and it just get you excited about, and a promo is just to get you excited about this upcoming film, and I'm definitely excited about that.
Absolutely, and I think they said Nine Inch Nails is doing the,
Yeah,
soundtrack for that, which I know Daft
perfect.
Punk did it for
Yeah,
Legacy, which is I have it on vinyl. It's a spectacular album. It's kind of the themes that they play at Tron Light Cycle Run. So when
yeah,
you're riding that ride, you're blasted off with that music going around you, and I can't wait to hear what they do for that one because they've got big shoes to fill for this one. I think people really love the Tron soundtrack, and it just gives the futuristic nature of the concept of the movie itself, um, kind of lends to their industrial techno vibes as
yeah,
well. I think it will work.
yeah. It looks good. It looks good. The whole thing looks great. So, yeah,
Great, and I'm glad you got to see the first two because I think they're really good kind of cult classic films now at
yeah,
this point too.
yeah, yeah,
And also wild to see in the second one. That's kind of the first use of that de aging technology that you kind of see everywhere now
yeah,
with Jeff Bridges. So how far we've
yeah.
come with that over the last
Right,
probably 14 years. That came out in
right.
2010. Oh
It's
boy.
incredible. I had no idea it came out that long ago.
Yeah, yeah, which also a testament to how good the effects hold up still in that
Yeah.
film.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So for me, I will say I was most excited to see, of course, the Skeleton Crew trailer for
Right.
Star Wars. That was a big one that we were anticipating, and also you got to see the first look at Andor season 2 and a little bit of the Mandalorian and Grogu, which was kind of the unexpected thing that they had enough footage for that to show at a panel. So that was really cool. I heard a lot of Marvel Studios first look stuff, Fantastic Four, Captain America: Brave New World, a little bit of Agatha too.
Yes.
So I know
Yes.
that was something we were hoping that you
Yes.
get to see.
Yeah. They did a great job presenting the Agatha stuff too. That was great. I love that. Catherine Hahn coming out was the highlight.
And I will say for me, I think the biggest like reveal announcement that they had was the Incredibles 3. I wasn't expecting that
Yeah.
to be announced. So I thought that was for, really love Incredibles 2, like more so than even the first one. And I'm glad that this franchise is getting a little bit more juice injected into it after riding the Incredicoaster at California Adventure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
always glad to hear that. And then potentially, who knows what the future holds for that franchise with parks and other things too. I think
Right.
the sky's
Right.
the limit on
Absolutely.
that one.
Absolutely.
So let's get to the main event. That's Saturday.
Yeah.
This is what we were most looking forward to, especially in our preview episode, which I listened to again, and boy, were we off on a lot of many
Yeah.
most things. We were very much thinking with our hearts,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's okay though. But personally, I didn't think that a single announcement was disappointing. That's not a phrase I would use for any of this here. So first, I want to speak to what was the energy like in the building here. So tell us about how you felt, and as you were getting wave after wave after wave of announcement.
So I think that they did the right thing by setting the tone by saying everything you're hearing about is plans. This is
Yes,
plans
that was
being made, dirt
beautiful.
moving, green light. So everyone already, because I think 2 years ago people were pretty disappointed by just hearing about blue sky options, about things, what could be happening, what are we thinking about. And so already people were like, "Ooh, getting excited, this is good." So it was the atmosphere was electric.
Hmm.
And they this in this particular showcase, this experiences showcase, they pulled out all the stops. They had just like tons of entertainment. It was a lot. And I had some conversations with other attendees who were there who were like, wow, it's a lot of flash, very little substance,
Mm.
not a lot of detail, lots of performances. I kind of sat back and enjoyed that, but inside me, I was also like, "Hey, let's just get to the news. Let's talk about what's going on."
Yeah,
They really, I mean, they went way over the top when it comes to this. They had
sure.
a full orchestra on stage. It was
They
incredible.
absolutely did. They absolutely
Mm,
did. Just to your point, I do agree with you. It took them a while to get
yeah.
into the stuff. There was a meme I saw circulating online that, yeah, similar to like in Jurassic Park, right? Jeff Goldblum's like, "Yeah, you do have dinosaurs on this dinosaur ride, don't you?"
Right.
Like, yeah,
Right.
someone was like, "You do have parks announcements at this park panel, right?" Like,
Right.
it's not just music here. You're not just bringing out the Disneyland band and the Dapper Dans
Mm,
to get us, and Darren Chris and all these guys getting us
yeah.
warmed up for announcements.
Rita Ora, and yeah, it was random. It was, I mean, it's not random. There was reasons why they had the right people, but it was just like, oh, whoa, another performance. You don't have to do this for us. We're here just for the announcements, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've already won the people in here.
Yeah,
You don't need to
right,
sell us more. We get
right.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
So eventually they did get into
Hmm.
the announcements, and boy, were there once they got into this thing and they got running, they had a lot. They had a lot that they had up and planned and up and running. So what announcement would you say right now, in this moment in time, are you most looking forward to seeing in any Disney park?
So the thing that, and I said this the last time we spoke, I was hoping for something, some sort of Coco experience. Now
Yeah, you did.
we kind of sketched out something. I
Hmm.
was elated that night I jumped out of my seat and cheered when they said that there was going to be a Coco experience coming to California Adventure. It looks like from the concept art to be like a boat ride.
Yeah.
We don't have many details, but just the fact that they've got a Coco experience coming, that was the one little thing that I love the most. But
Hmm.
actually, like the thing that I'll pick two things. Just generally what the future looks like for Magic Kingdom. When if you bundle up
Mm.
everything that they're doing at Magic Kingdom, I'm generally very excited about all that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you 100% there on that one. Just we'll start with the Coco one.
Yeah,
I love that they're doing this, right?
yeah,
I think I can imagine it going in the Pixar Pier place just to kind
yeah,
of fit with the theming of that
yeah,
overall. And it's about time, frankly.
yeah.
Coco is a franchise that deserves it.
It's a masterpiece of animation, and it creates such a vivid world that I think all of us want to be in. I think Imagineers must be just drooling to be able to
Hmm.
create those worlds for us to
Yeah.
experience. So Coco just made sense to me. Now, when you and I talked, I was like, I want an Omni coaster that goes through the world of Coco. That's not happening. That's okay. I'm okay with it because we got our Coco. I'm so happy.
It's a foot in the door, right?
Yeah,
It's not saying that we couldn't do that later,
right.
and bring that to perhaps a Walt Disney World and then showcase that in some way.
Yeah,
The selfish person in me is like, great, they'll have that done in 2 years, so that when we go back to Anaheim for D23 2026, we'll be able to experience it at California Adventure, and then hopefully in another 2 years after that, they'll say, great, the Three Caballeros at the Mexico
yeah,
Pavilion is a great retheme to be done right into Coco here, and we already have the foundation laid out, so we can just bring that right on over.
right.
And
I
I think
wouldn't
that
be
would be a
surprised.
solid idea there.
I wouldn't be
Um,
surprised.
so yeah, I'm all for that. And of course, the Magic Kingdom expansion is wild. And I do have to ask, because we've kind of heard in the week since
Yeah,
of D23 a bit of the cost to
yeah.
to this effort here. So, just for listeners at home, when we talk about Magic Kingdom expansion, we're talking to the Beyond Big Thunder project that we kind of got more details on. At least the more concrete one is the two Cars attractions coming to that Frontierland area, which are going to take away seemingly the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island in order to make room for these two big attractions that they are talking about. And then beyond that, there will be the Villains thing, which was announced, but not really any big details on it aside from just saying like it's happening.
Right.
So how do you feel about the cost that is giving up here for this opportunity?
So, in my opinion, it's Rivers of America, Tom Sawyer Island are great, but unfortunately, they're not great enough and beloved enough that given the amount of land that they take
Hmm.
up, I think like they can't justify that amount of space.
Yeah.
Um, I also just think like sort of the way it sounds like they're talking about the Cars stuff, it is a sort of Frontierland expanding into
Sure.
Cars Land. I really like that thought because I think Frontierland is one of the best spots. It's just I want more of it, right?
I agree.
And so I see no issue with it. I want things to change. I want things to update. I've been to Tom Sawyer Island. I've been on the steamship. I enjoy it, but I'm not so in love with it that I needed to stay. I also will say I trust the Imagineers to make this
Hmm.
incredible, and I think like a lot of things we complain and we moan and ache and bellyache about it, and the truth is to the Imagineers, these things matter too.
Hmm.
So they're not going to, hopefully not going to let us down. They're going to do it the right way and they're going to make it incredible.
Yeah, they're aware of the weight of their choices and the things that they
Yeah.
do, so they don't take anything super lightly. It's not like they're coming
Yeah.
in here to ruin our childhoods.
Right.
They don't
Right.
come in with
Yeah.
that directive because it's their
Yeah.
childhood too that they're also messing
Yeah.
with to some degree.
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
I do exactly agree with everything that you're saying here. I think that when this is all said and done, Frontierland has the opportunity to be the best area of the Magic
Yeah.
Kingdom, and I think that it will be leagues above anything else when you add up Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you add up Big Thunder Mountain, and you add up these two big Cars attractions. Oh, the one that they are kind of leading on mostly is kind of this off-road like
Yeah.
adventure. Not, and they're like, it's not Radiator Springs Racers. We're not doing that. We're not just bringing that over to the Magic Kingdom. This is an entirely new attraction. And I thought, okay, great. Wow me with what you're going to do here. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was thinking maybe it was taking a lot of the same format, the same ride system as Radiator Springs Racers, but a totally different scene
Yeah,
and purpose and everything. I don't know. I'm excited. It sounds like it'll be great.
I think
I
so
have to
too.
ask you, what did you think of the news about Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run?
You see, I don't know where I stand today, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm kind of conflicted at this point. I
Okay.
understand the need to move forward and all that. My hope, and this is my hope, because I like that. I know there's a lot of fans that are like, why is Disney so strict on Galaxy's Edge being a certain place and
Yeah.
time in the Star Wars timeline? I kind of like that because it allows me to create my own story within that timeline, and it puts the onus on me to create my own Star Wars adventure rather than just making a generic Star Wars land, right? Where then you see Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca, and just random characters floating throughout. So that was kind of my thing on that one.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's okay to grow and change. And I liked seeing Boba Fett and the Mandalorian at the Disneyland one at Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge. So they have a lot more freedom over there to do fun stuff. So they have those quirky droids that we saw in the Imagineering Pavilion walking around. They have their own like fireworks scene there that they have with different music playing if you watch the Disneyland fireworks. So I would like to see more of those opportunities, and perhaps this is the first step towards that. Um, so ultimately, going back to my thought here, my hope is that this is a theme that they do for like 3 months a year. They
Oh,
get people excited about it. They have this experience, and then it
yeah.
goes away and it goes back to the standard Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, or maybe it's 6 months out of the year, 3 months, whatever it needs to be. Just I want to keep both alive. I want to keep both experiences alive, so that we're not losing the fun story of both of them too, and the animatronics that come with that, and just the story with it overall. But I know I'll have fun. I have no doubt that I'll have fun doing a flying the Falcon beside the Mandalorian and seeing Grogu in the adventure. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And it obviously it's going to coincide with the movie coming out too, so that's the brand synergy there. Um, so ultimately, I hope that it's just like a fun adventure that you get to do every so often, and you also get both. I want to have both cakes, basically.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. I want to have
You
both.
could. Right? Yeah, you could. You could. Absolutely.
Oh,
Well, that's the advantage of these ride systems that are screen-based and simulation is that you
exactly.
can update. Star Tours is holding up pretty damn
Star
well.
Tours is amazing. Yeah, exactly. They're always updating that every 5 years.
Yeah, and brilliant, and I love it, and I enjoy it because of the fact that it's updating, and so, I'm glad that they're taking advantage of that. You can see some simulation rides, motion simulator rides that never change, and it's just they're not
Mhm.
taking advantage of one of the benefits of one of those rides. So I
Right.
it's great to see it. Yeah.
I agree, I agree, and it's interesting that that was the one Galaxy's Edge update that we got at this
Yeah.
park.
I thought we were gonna get a lot more because
I did
5 years of
too.
Galaxy's Edge, we were hoping for a sit-down restaurant. Nope, nope,
Yeah,
nope.
yeah, maybe
We'll have to
something on the
wait 2
Star Cruiser,
years.
nothing on
Yeah,
that front.
yeah,
Maybe they just didn't want to poke that bear too much, I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
So that's kinda where I land on that one, but you got to the store, didn't you? Did you see the Star Speeder for Star Tours that they had there?
I didn't get to that. I didn't get to that
Oh,
store.
man.
My friend and I had a virtual queue for that, and still, it was the first virtual queue of the first day, and it was still like a 2-hour wait with
Oh,
virtual queue. So
oh,
we gave
man.
up on that and moved along. So that looked really cool because I, as a kid, remember the original Star Tours,
Yeah.
and to see that video play inside the toy, I was like, I remember that. I kind of want
Yep.
that, although I really shouldn't buy it.
I was like, "It's $300." That was the only thing I couldn't
Yeah,
justify doing, and
yeah,
I saw it operate. It moves, it kind of does the
yeah,
ride movements with it at the same
yeah.
time, and it's just
Cool.
enough. It's big enough that, I have a bunch of 3 3/4 inch, action figures that you can fit them in
Mm,
the seats, and it's like they're doing the Star Tours ride, and I thought, "Okay,
yeah,
that'd be cool," but also $300.
yeah.
I
That's
can't
a
do
lot.
that.
That's a lot.
So back to the parks announcements here. What which upcoming attraction or experience, because they also announced a lot of different experiences too, um did you least expect to see showcase? So we had our, of course, our preview episode where we were expecting stuff, and then they announced a whole lot of stuff that I was like, wow, okay, they're doing that. So what kind of was like the biggest, like, oh, okay, you're doing that, to
Yeah,
when you were sitting there?
it was the Smuggler's Run announcement for
Really?
me that
Okay.
I was not expecting that. I really was. It came out of nowhere for me.
Well, I answer the same question back. What do you think on that front?
Yeah, I like a refresh. I
Hmm.
honestly like
Yeah,
the
sure.
timeline is not important to me at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of let everything wash over me. I do not care about where I am in the timeline. I think I'm like a lot of people. I'm not as detailed oriented that in that way. I just want to see some familiar characters, familiar scenes. I want to
Hmm.
experience some fun things. I do not care about timeline. So
Yeah.
just keep it fresh, keep it interesting, keep it changing. You got me hooked. I'm happy.
Yeah, great, and that's totally the other side too that I see as well.
Yeah.
Like, I know that not everybody coming to Galaxy's Edge is like, "I'm the biggest Star Wars fan ever," and some people just want to. I know it's hard to believe it. Some people just want to go and have a good time.
Is there is you correct me if I'm wrong. There's some story about the Imagineers and George Lucas talking about Star Tours, and they were sort of sketching this all out, and they're doing this and that, and George Lucas is saying this and this, and the Imagineers are like, well, that wouldn't make any sense given the timeline, and he's like, no one cares, right?
Hmm.
Have you heard that before?
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
George is very famous for saying "canon schmanon." You
yeah.
know, who cares?
Have
Especially at a
fun.
Star Tours, it's like it's just a
Yeah,
ride. Have fun with
yeah,
it.
yeah. I love that.
um, and so you take that same mentality, but also be, careful with the IP
Yeah,
itself, and respectful to it, and
yeah.
it's the difference between having this and the memes of like Vader dancing at the Star Wars launch bay,
Right,
right?
right.
You get really kitschy
Yeah,
really fast.
yeah.
um
I agree.
so I think they're giving it just the right amount of love and care and attention that's going to be required of it,
Yeah,
and of course we just got an announcement with some minimal um concept art along with it too, so who knows what it actually will equate to in the end of all things when it comes out 2 years from now. A lot of time and spaces in between here. Matt, I'll tell you, it was one thing, not on my bingo card at all, which was the Monsters Inc. Monstropolis land that is now coming
yes,
to Hollywood Studios, which I'm like, okay, I was like, Cars Land, it works great for Hollywood Studios, but now that we're getting kind of that in Magic Kingdom, plus a Monsters Inc. space in Hollywood Studios with the big roller coaster door thing that they're gonna do. I don't know. Magic Hollywood Studios might be the top park now.
Yeah, that roller coaster looks real. It looks like it's going to be really cool. That's exciting. That is really really exciting. Totally. Like I know there have been people, bloggers, who have talked about this sort of suspended coaster system that
Hmm.
could be like the doors. Apparently, like this has been a rumor that's been circulating for a long time, and I guess
Yeah.
finally it's here. It's awesome. It looks. I can't wait for that. And
I'm
yeah,
very,
Hollywood Studios. Damn, it's going to be hard to beat Hollywood Studios.
it really is. It really is. Can you imagine just that ride? I imagine they'll have, of course, the food. So like that Harryhausen's sushi restaurant of some degree,
Yeah,
some Asian inspired restaurant there as well. Couple that with a Slinky Dog Dash and a Rise of Resistance and your Star Tours and your Tower
yeah,
of Terror and a Phantasmic to end out the night. That's a pretty good day if you ask me
yeah,
across the board there.
yeah.
Uh, but I do ask again, what is the cost of this? And I've heard rumor that it could be Animation Courtyard, which I would be more apt with
Right.
giving up,
No
but
problem.
there
Yeah.
also could be a Muppets vision that could be on the cutting room floor with this endeavor. So where does your heart go with that one?
Um, I love Muppet Vision 3D. I
I do
really
too.
do.
I do
I
too.
think it is an important piece of, there's the last thing that Jim Henson
It
worked
is.
on,
It is.
and it's good. And I think it's like a really good representation about what the Muppets are all about. And I
Yeah.
love that we get to experience it. So I would be really sad if Muppet Vision 3D went away. That being said, they're not doing anything with all that extra space back there.
Hmm.
There's a lot of extra space back there that's not really being utilized. So I could understand that being a good candidate for this. But please, please, Imagineers, listen to me. Please keep Muppet Vision 3D. That thing is. I just want that to exist for a long time.
Here are pleas. May it never go
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
It stands the test of time. The
Oh
comedy
yeah,
still
it's
works.
funny.
Like
It is funny.
the
Yeah,
effects work. Everything about it still holds true. I'm a big fan of that whole area, and
yeah,
just give me more
mm.
Muppets in the parks. If anything, I should get an expansion of that land.
Yeah. Right.
Come on, folks, help us
Yeah,
out. Throw us a
yeah,
bone with the Muppets.
yeah,
So that was my kind of big like, whoa, they're doing that. But also to hear like they're doing a Lion King expansion to Disneyland Paris.
yeah,
That was like kind of out of left field. I think we had a sense of the new Avengers Infinity Defense ride that
yeah,
they were doing because that was announced at previous D23, but that Stark new Flyers ride that they're going to be doing, which seems wild, is on
yeah,
the table too for that. Which I was like, okay, we're expanding Avengers Campus. Let's do it. It needs it. It needs more
yeah.
space over there. Let's have it. Four new cruise ships was not on my bingo card at all,
Right.
especially after all the announcements they had over the last couple of weeks here. And two new Spider-Man rides coming to your Hong Kong and your Shanghai Disneylands, which I thought were also kind of out of left field for me. Um, so all those were great, and I do want to end on at least your thoughts on the two new lounges that we're getting at the both Epcot and the Magic Kingdom. I think these are great. What do you think about
Yeah.
the Spaceship Earth lounge for Epcot as well as the Pirates of the Caribbean themed lounge for Magic Kingdom?
I'm more excited about Pirates of the Caribbean because I think we just need more of that in the park. People love it; it's
Yeah.
beloved, and I just want more to be in that world more. So I love the idea of a lounge there. As for the Spaceship Earth one, I like the idea. It looks like it's going to be cool. I feel like we got a lot of like opportunities like that in Epcot already. I think like the Space 220 bars
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
comes to mind immediately. I'm not as excited about that one. I'm also just like not a big drinker, also. So like
Hey, me
it's
either.
just. But I like if you can get me more in the world of pirates, I'm in. I love it.
Especially if they do the same approach for Oga's Cantina at
Yeah,
the Galaxy's Edge, and they do that with either of these experiences, particularly the Pirates one. Like if you have
yeah,
the swashbuckling
yeah,
waiters and waitresses coming around and having good banter with you, like that's what I'm here for. Is that
yeah.
type of experience?
Oh, absolutely. That would be so much fun. Oga's is a great experience. Really immersive, really enveloping, but you're enjoying a drink and maybe some snacks. I would just that would be so great to see that. I cannot wait for that.
I really would. I can't wait for all this. And I do also, sorry, I completely forgot while it was still top of my mind here. I have to say it. We got details on the Indiana Jones and the Encanto experience
Yes.
for Animal Kingdom. So we
Yeah.
really were eating good at this panel to
Yeah.
begin with. But just to announce it, say we're getting things moving on this front, literally, we're going through the Encanto house. Like,
Yeah. Great.
sign me up.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's exactly what it
Absolutely.
needs to be.
Yeah.
And a brand new Indiana Jones
That's
attraction.
right. I
Not
was
similar at all.
I was expecting Indiana Jones Adventure, and I was so happy to hear that that's not what's happening. That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Like it allows you to have something to do when you come to California again
Right.
too. That keeps
Yeah.
that separation there.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. I love the
Oh
way it
yeah.
sounds. He's on the hunt for some new creature in this Mayan temple. Um, Sign me up. I'm all for the indie. I'm all for Encanto. Sorry, Dinoland. It's time to move on.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I agree.
Well, Matt, this has been a wonderful conversation here, and it's been so great to hear about your D23 experiences and the things that you did over the course of those 3 days. And they were three jam-packed filled days, plus a day at Disneyland. And I know
Yep.
that you immediately got on a plane, basically going to the other side of the world
Yep.
afterwards. So you've had some travel over the last couple of days,
Yeah.
my friend. But overall here, what is the biggest piece of advice that listeners should know if they want to attend a D23 in the future?
So it's a lot like visiting the parks. There's just a lot to do, not a lot of time. And so what I would say is if you're going, pick a priority or two. What's a key
Yeah,
thing that you want to get for that day? And then everything else is gravy. So you're definitely going to get other stuff. You're going to get to do other stuff, but don't try to do everything. It's not going to be
not
possible.
possible. No.
But do plan in advance. You also have to keep your ear to the ground because we were hearing about things we didn't realize were going to be there,
Oh
or
yeah.
interesting things that were better than we expected. And so word was getting out. So definitely talking to a lot of people, if you're able to kind of hear what's going on, keeping your ear to the ground around that was helpful, because you have to sort of be flexible and change when you hear something interesting's happening, or something's a particularly good
Hmm.
experience to get over there, or there's a particularly good like shopping. I heard about it was Mickey's of Glendale was one of the shopping experiences that had
Yeah.
some of the best stuff. And I looked at a lot of merch, and I found a sweatshirt I liked. I'm so happy I waited the 35-45 minutes to get in
Worth it.
there. And so, but that was because I was listening and talking to people. So it's a big part of that. Is listening and talking to people, find out what's good out there. But you only found out, on the day, right?
Yep, absolutely. I will yes and everything that you just said there, and I will say manifest it if you want it, right? If
Yeah.
you want to do something, stand in line, right? Be
Yeah.
willing to stand in line and stand in line for an hour or an hour and a half hour, whatever you need to do in order to make it happen. If it's the thing that you want to do that day, absolutely make it the thing that you do that day and cut out other things out of your time in order to make that happen. And otherwise, you're going to miss out on it and you're going to be disappointed and you're going to have to pivot and you're not going to like that overall. But be flexible, like you were alluding to there. You never know what else is going to pop up. If some band is going to come through the I don't know if you saw the marching band come through a
Yeah.
couple times with Mickey at the lead,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, okay, we're doing this. We're here. We're just living in the moment. We're having a good time. And you never know who's going to walk by, right? John Favreau walked right by me, and he
Wow.
went right into the Avatar experience, and then I waited for him to come out because I knew where it was ending at, so I snapped a picture of him 2 feet away from me.
I walked by, Bob Iger walked by me.
See,
I couldn't,
see,
yeah,
the
it was
top man
unbelievable.
himself, Uncle Bob,
Yeah.
was right there with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All you never know who you're going to run into, and just live in the moment, but also take advantage of the opportunities you have in front of you, and also take care of yourselves first and foremost.
Yeah.
You need to eat, you need to drink water, stay hydrated, rest if you can, sit down, charge your phone up. They have a lot of stations there to do that at the Anaheim Convention Center, but they also have a lot of food stands. I don't know if you partook in any of either the food
Yeah.
trucks outside
Food
or
trucks are great. Yeah.
the stands inside. I thought they did a wonderful job compared to Star Wars Celebration a few years ago of having more offerings for everybody, all different types of palettes, and I'll say arguably it was pretty good. I didn't
Yeah.
have a complaint with the food over the course of the couple days.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
water fountains aplenty, so stay hydrated and make sure you're snacking and all that, because they did have a very strict food and drink policy
Yeah.
coming into that, which I know a lot of people were not happy with. But
Yeah.
it was I hate to say it, but it was on the
Yeah.
the rules and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
you learn after the first day what you can and can't do, and it went pretty smooth, I will say, after the first day. But it was always the hiccups and all that stuff, as naturally
Yeah.
going to be on anything like this. Wonderful, Matt. Anything else that you have at this time? And if not, feel free to plug where people can find you at on the internet.
No, I think that covers everything. I think I'm on a lot of different platforms, but you can always find me on mattrichardson.com. That's where I link out to all the platforms. So whatever platform you use, I'm sure I'm there. Go to mattrichardson.com and you'll find me there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you, folks, for listening to this episode here. And of course, following along with our D23 coverage. It was such a blast to bring it all to you. And I hope you enjoyed all the tweets and the TikToks and Instagrams that we did. It was a lot of fun. And I hope that you continue to stay along and stay tuned for our further adventures as we go off into the world and find new things in this fun Lucasfilm Star Wars adjacent galaxy that we have in front of us here. Until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.